Morning, talking about the anchor of your soul. The anchor of your soul. I'm about ready to say no to this because this is taking too long. So it looks like we can't really do it.
Is it not working?
Yeah, it's not gonna let you do it over here, and that's our page. So how y'all doing, everybody?
How we doing?
Everybody up? It's 11:04. Everybody up? So we are here today to talk about the anchor of your soul. We put up a Facebook post earlier this week. Actually, I put it up, and it came from my Mornings with Jesus publication that I read every single day. As long as I'm alive, I'm gonna be reading something in the morning. And it really spoke to my heart. And I put up the post, and I looks like it spoke to other people's heart. We did get some people that loved it, liked it, cared. And so the title says, "Are you in the midst of a storm in your life? What or who is your anchor?" And we all, at some point or another, have or will go through a storm in our lives, and we will go through more than one storm. And isn't it ironic right now that the state of Florida is having, I think, another storm supposedly coming, and sadly, some people have not survived the storm, and we want to survive the storms of life when things happen in our lives. We want to survive that. Now, the elements of the air and the wind and all that has caused people to lose their lives, but we're talking about what is holding you in place when there is a storm in your life. And if you know about a boat and an anchor, and where this came from with my devotion is that the person had went on a cruise, and they were heading back to New York City, I guess, where they left, whatever you call that, when you leave out of a port in a boat. And so they were going back, but it started to get like really stormy. And so the boat was tossing and turning, and it was kind of scary, and they had to wait the storm out. And she was talking about how they trusted the captain to steer them back to safety. And so when we are and they had to actually anchor the boat while they were in the storms and wait that storm out. But the anchor kept them in place. The anchor kept them in place. And so, and the question is, are you in the midst of a storm, and what or who is your anchor? Ours is God through his son, Christ Jesus. That's our anchor. And there's a verse that says, and it's in Hebrews, and that's the verse that we reference in the post on Facebook. It says, God did this so that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled to take hold of the hope set before us may be greatly encouraged. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. This hope that we have, that's like an anchor for our soul. Our soul is our will and our mind and our emotions. And so when we are in a storm, we got all kind of emotions going on. And our hope is like that anchor for the boat. And when this boat is being tossed and the wind is blowing, and it just seemed like, oh my gosh, are we going to make it out of here alive? That's what hope does for us. It becomes our anchor that's going to keep us in place while we're going through the storm, whatever that storm might be. And we want to survive the storm. And when you put your hope, which is your anchor in God, when you do that, it will help you to make it through the storm, to get on the other side of the storm. And like I said, sadly, with what's going on with the storms in Florida, people have lost their lives, but we don't have to lose our life. I mean, we can make it through that storm when we keep our hope which is our anchor in God through his son Christ Jesus, we can survive the storm. And some of the storms that some of us have had to deal with, whether it's having, going through a divorce. That's a storm in your life, that when two people walk down the aisle and say, we're going to get married and live together for the rest of our lives, they never said, we're going to get married and then be together for so many years and this and that, and then we're going to get divorced. Mm-hmm. I don't believe anybody who ever gets married ever says that. And again, I know that people have, I've said this before, people have prenuptial agreements in case they get divorced and somebody want to make sure they keep all their money. But I don't believe anybody walks down the aisle saying that, you know what, in so many years we're going to get a divorce. And so that's the type of storm that we go through, and we have to get on the other side of that storm. Losing a loved one, that is an awful storm to go through. And so, that's a storm. And sometimes, in the case of losing, a child, and even, one of your loved ones, you may never, ever fully get on the other side of that storm. But when we keep our hope as our anchor in God through his son Christ Jesus, we will be able to sustain and or withstand the storm until we get to the other side. And so what is the question is, where's your soul anchored? Where's your will and your mind and your emotions anchored when you go through stuff? When real life is happening. I mean, it's happening all the time. But when the stormy stuff is happening and things are being tossed and blown this way and that way, and you don't know which way to go or how this is going to end up or where you're going to end up, where is your hope? Is it anchored in, I can figure this out. I'm going to figure this out, figure out how to do this. Not to say God doesn't give us common sense or knowledge or understanding. But when we in that type of storm, we get all messed up. We get confused. We don't know which way to go. And I'm not saying confused in a bad way, but we can make some wrong decisions because we're in a storm.
Well, the biggest thing is with an anchor is on a boat, it holds the boat there. So, what I'm kind of feeling is like, we need to have a firm foundation in every situation, because that, if you have, an anchor just holds you there, during a storm. The boat's not going to go anywhere. So whatever we face, whatever we're dealing with, we're almost trying to say we need to have the firm foundation. We need to have God as our firm foundation, no matter what comes our way. Like I said, an anchor just holds the boat there. That way, it's not going to go. We can. The thing is, with an anchor in our lives, we're going to be safe. We're not going to go anywhere. But let's not really focus on staying in one spot. That's where I just want to share about. We need to have the firm foundation on who God is in our lives and who God is. Period. No matter what we face, whatever we face, like Sylvia had said, a loss of this, loss of this or loss of that. So with an anchor, that really, it goes with the story, but not really, because whenever you face something, whenever we go through a trial, that's where the firm foundation. In the Bible it says, how do you want to build your house? Do you want to build it on hay, sticks, or you want to build it on rock, which is the foundation, or you build it on the sand? What happens when we build a sandcastle? We spend all the time on building a sandcastle. Water comes in, washes the sandcastle away. If you built a firm foundation around rock, just like our homes are built under the storms. Unfortunately, with the hurricane, when you have a storm big enough, as we saw on TV, it actually moves everything.
It loosens up everything.
I don't know this. I haven't done my homework on it, but I think if you went back, that foundation is still going to be there. The stuff that was actually attached to the foundation is gone. the house itself was slowing down, but I believe after everything is done, you're going to go back and you're still going to see the cinder blocks. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where the foundation is. That's where
like that.
that's where it starts with. So as we're just sharing about the anchor, on a ship, anchor holds it still during a storm.
I like that.
So the biggest thing is what is our foundation on that? Is it we're just going to take a chance on this, or are we going to trust the Lord no matter what we face? Because God, He doesn't change. He's firm, has a firm foundation. So that's why we want to put everything into God, because we know no matter what we face, He already knows what we're going through, but we don't want to be tossed back and forth like a ship without the anchor.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll sink, because we'll sink and we
we'll waver.
But we can sink too, right? But I like that too. We will waver back and forth. I mean, because then I said it like you get confused. You're in a storm and you don't know what to do, which way to go, and how it's going to end up, and you start wavering back and forth, and then you could actually sink. And I did like how you said, you said something. It was alluding to like, okay, the anchor is there to hold us in place while we're going through the storm. But then after the storm is over, you can go. You don't have to stay right there where the anchor was holding you in place. You want to get back up and start moving into where you need to go and what you need to do and how you need to be. Just like once the boat had put the anchor down to keep it in place during the storm, but then once the storm was over, then the boat continued to move on to where it needed to go. So I like how you said that you don't want to stay there.
Yeah, basically in the devotion, it's just talking about the ship was coming back into port from going somewhere, Bahamas, whatever, etc. And the waves were rough, and so they had to anchor the boat before they could even go into port. So they had to communicate with land, let's just say, before the boat, and that's what they were talking about. So the main thing about an anchor is it's going to hold you there. Once that anchor comes up, then if the foundation is not firm, you're going to be thrown from to and fro.
Yeah, and I like how you use the analogy of sadly the storm is happening in Florida, and how we've watched on video how the houses are just floating away in this storm, and how you said that you're pretty sure if you understand it right, the foundation is still there, but anything that was attached to that foundation, it wasn't enough to stop the water from causing it to go away. But that foundation is still there, and that's what we're talking about. Where's your soul anchored? And we have a firm foundation when we have our hope in God, and that's our anchor. Our hope is our anchor that keeps us in that foundation when things come into our lives that just absolutely stink, that absolutely hurt, that absolutely don't want you. You don't even want to deal with life anymore. You don't want to keep going on with life. And so our hope is anchored in God through His Son, Christ Jesus. And so we are going to have those storms, whether it's divorce, whether it's
loss of
a child pass away, a husband, a wife, a daughter, your income, your home, your relationships. It's like we go through storms of life, but where is our soul anchored? Where's our will and our mind and emotions anchored? Where is it? Is our hope anchored in God, or is it anchored in ourselves or in the circumstances or in somebody else to help us get through the storm? And there's nothing wrong with getting counseling and therapy. I've gone through that, and you're talking even to a psychiatrist. There's nothing I would say wrong with it. But when it's all said and done, where is your hope anchored? Is it anchored in anything else and everybody else, or is it anchored in God through His Son, Christ Jesus? And so that's what we're talking about. Where is your soul anchored? The anchor of my soul. Where is your foundation? Is it in what I can see or what I can do, or is it what's going to sustain me and help me to withstand that storm? Like that foundation is still there. It can withstand the storm. And so, but yet that house couldn't, but that foundation. So when we put our foundation, I mean, our hope in the foundation of God, comes whatever storm might come. Um, we're gonna stay. We're gonna hold to that foundation.
So let me go a little further technical. So an anchor, is attached to a ship boat. Now you can put the anchor on down in the water, but if the foundation is not, like, if you don't put it in the rocks or a firm foundation, that boat will just.
It'll keep
If you have a strong current, a strong storm, I went on a fishing trip. We thought we put the anchor down, but it was so bad that it actually moved the anchor because the anchor was in mud. The anchor wasn't down into a firm foundation. But I guess you don't want to put anchor in the rocks because then you can't get it out. You have to cut the chain. Anyways, but I think you understand what I'm saying. When you put the anchor in, you want to make sure that it's going to hold, which we're also talking about the foundation. And the other illustration I'm talking about is, unfortunately, if in these wildfires, the house is gone. You go back, and unfortunately, what do you see? Just the foundation. So all I'm saying is, like, the brick, pretty strong item. It's gonna withstand any pressure. So therefore, that's why we need to have our anchor needs to be strong. There's nothing wrong with just putting your anchor out during a situation. Like, oh my gosh, there's just so much stuff going on right now. I just can't go at it. Go ahead. God will always be there. He said he will never leave us or forsake us. So, but sometimes we just gotta stop. And therefore we can just put the anchor out and just chillax. Just breathe. Like, lots going on. This coming at you. This got a lot of storms coming at you. This, that. You got a bill. You're not expecting this. We all face situations like that. So that's okay to be able to put your anchor down to hold you still. But eventually, you're going to have to bring the anchor up and then go with God. Because he will not direct you wrong. But again, you need to include him in every situation that you're facing. I know I do it. Like, everything is going good. And then until a situation, we need to continually have this. If you look at a cross, it's always this up and down, and then you can work on left and right. So it's always like north and south you work on, and then east and west. So if you ever look at a cross, you always want to work on this because it's you and God. He never moves. As long as you have that firm foundation, you won't move during a storm also.
And I love how we're using the foundation of a house, even in a storm or even in a fire, and how that foundation is still standing. Once the house is burned or the house is swept away, you still have that foundation